Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. Today we have Dr. Bincy John with us. A brief about Dr. Bincy. She has done her bachelor's in biotechnology from MIT University, Noida. And then for master's, she attended Allahabad University. For PhD, she moved to Germany and did her PhD from Frankfurt University. Then following her passion for research, she moved to United States of America and did her postdocs initially at University of Tennessee and then Wake Forest School of Medicine in North Carolina. Presently, Dr. Bincy is team lead at Charles River Laboratory, North Carolina. With this brief introduction, I would like to welcome Dr. Bincy at the platform. Dr. Bincy, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be part of the Research Celebrity series. And of course, it's such an honor speaking with you, Raja. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for kind words. So we start our conversations with our standard question that how and when you decided that you wanted to be a researcher.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I mean, so I think the very first step where I realized that, yes, I want to do my PhD, I want to become a scientist, and I want to pursue my higher education was when I did my master's dissertation, and that was in National Institute of Immunology, Delhi. That's when I realized that I do have that passion, I do have that interest. But back in the day, we didn't have resources, and being a scientist was not like a common profession. We didn't have like series like these for the education, for networking, and for the guidance, right? So I really didn't have the right directives, but I truly had the passion, the interest. But my colleagues around me, my friends, and when I looked at postdocs and PhDs and research investigators, that's when I thought, okay, this is a profession as well. This is a career option. So there is an end game to this as well. So that's what, everything began. But I think back when I was a little child from my school days, I was a very inquisitive child. I was very curious, very curious kid, very interested in science. I really loved reading about biology, and whenever I went to the laboratory for experiments, I think I was very curious about things. A barium sulfate turning into an apple green, or a strontium turning into a crimson red, doing dissections in the laboratory was very interesting. Very, I would love and enjoy those moments. But that was when I was a young person. I had a lot of interest, but of course there were a lot of questions of being, what is the career choice? Or I didn't, there were so many unknowns at that stage, right? Only I have the interest, but I don't know what is a career path, what are the downstream achievements that I can make out of this. But as I grew and as I matured, as I had peers and as I had mentors and guidances from others, that's when I realized that, okay, I can bring this interest into a profession and shape it into a career. So that's where everything began. And, I did my bachelor's in biotechnology and master's in biotechnology. And that was a new thing as well at that time. And then I went ahead and pursued my PhD in Germany. And this was related to protein-protein interactions in neurodegenerative disorders. So I could delve into subjects like biochemistry and molecular biology. And that was pretty interesting. And then from there, I moved, I had strong interest in cancer biology and tumor biology and understanding those mechanisms. And for that reason, I moved to US and I did my postdocs in ovarian cancer, breast cancer, and prostate cancer. So I think all that was great. A lot of new things and a lot of subjects. I started off with immunology, then I stepped into structural biology, and then I did my PhD in biochemistry and molecular biology, and then I got interested in tumor biology. So there was a lot of like hoops, a lot of steps that I took, jumped from one platform to another. But I truly enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And then, from academia, I wanted to step into a more fast-paced and a dynamic environment. And that's why I stepped into industrial arena. And now when I work for Charles River Laboratory, so they generate a lot of in vivo tumor models. disease models, which kind of mimic the tumor microenvironment. And we are able to bring in new technologies from bedside to bedside. So that's the motivation that I bring to work. And I truly enjoy my job. So I think it's all hard work that has been paid off right now when I see that I'm able to bring a new technology and bring a new, a change for a patient. There's whatever we do, there is a patient behind the scene. So I think when we are able to bring that meaningful and impactful change in somebody's life, I think that's the power of a researcher. That's the power of a scientist.
Great. So this is something which we just discussed, is like for all the viewers, we have Dr. Bincy has mentioned a work worth more than 2 decades, and that's the life of researchers. Okay, they can sum up in such a way that it is just so easy. So let's start with the first step. Dr. Bincy, if you can tell us about the process of applications from India to Germany, how that landed, and then how was the journey of the PhD?
Yes, sure. So, I was very certain that I want to pursue my PhD abroad. And for that reason being, like when I was in India, definitely we have very hardworking scientists and very hardworking, focused people out there and prestigious institutions. But one thing that I always felt is highly competitive, right? Because there are few spots and multiple people who are applying for that position, and probably you have to wait for some maybe an year or so to get into a prestigious university. So that was a challenge that I faced when I was back in India. So in order to improve my chances, I wanted to pursue my PhD abroad. And my primary focus was, of course, America. Because at that time, Europe was not very popular. Germany was not very inviting. So definitely US was my top priority, and I did apply. There is a fall and a spring session where you got to apply to universities. It's a standard form, online form, and everything has a registration fee attached to it. And then you fill out the form, you have recommendation letters, the statement of purpose, and then you apply to the universities of interest, and then choose your research field of interest. For example, somebody might like biochemistry, somebody might be interested in molecular biology, somebody in immunology. So choose your research field, which you like the most, which you enjoy or you want to learn. So that was the first step. And then Germany was actually an alternate for me at that time, because it was not very popular and we didn't hear a lot about Germany. Now it is like totally different scenario. But as an alternative, because I was like I was always attending these, wherever there was courses or feedback from how to enter into a foreign university. That's how I heard about German universities. And then as an alternative, I was applying to German universities. That is pretty straightforward, because they hire people throughout the year. So as long as you're able to find your research interest, connect with your investigator, and if you're interested with them, it was just a telephonic interview and a panel interview. Everything was virtual. For me at that time. And since she worked on something very interesting, it was about protein trafficking in neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's disease. Having said that, I never had the experience working with it. So it was more like, I want to learn it. I want to learn about biochemistry. I want to learn about molecular biology. I want to learn about cloning. So that's how I applied in the German universities. But all of them, the standard procedure that I use is like, I was definitely looking them up. What are the research fields and what are the publications coming out of them? How does the laboratory setup look like? What are the technologies that they have in-house? So you have all this information online, like if you look at their profile. So whatever connects with you or something which you want to learn, you can go ahead and pursue that. And my PhD, your second question, how was my PhD? And of course, PhD is not easy for anyone. I don't want to discourage anybody, but one thing which I didn't have knowledge about because I was still kind of, don't know whether I want to pursue this. Am I like really capable of handling all the challenges? Somebody had to like help me and guide me at that point. But now at this stage, since I have gone past all that, I've experienced it. What I feel is that you got to look into yourself first. That do you really have the traits to pursue that PhD? The reason why I say that is because it is a highly accountable, honorable, reputable position. So, when there is a patient behind it or a technology can change the face of the world, it is definitely a highly responsible position. Whatever you do, you're accountable, you're changing the world every day. So that is the ownership that we have. That's the onus, that's the burden that we carry every day. So that's the importance of being a research scientist, the significance of becoming a scientist. Since it is such a reputable, accountable position, of course, it is not going to be easy, right? There'll be challenges. We have to, I remember, like when I finished my PhD, I was totally a different person. I transformed with my technical skills as well as soft skills, because during your PhD, you have to face challenging situations. Sometimes things are not working. You got to pivot, you got to change, you got to think critically. You have to make critical decisions very quickly. And also sometimes, I think from my own personal experience, when I was young, I did have stage fright issues. Okay, so I was not a person who would like go up to the stage and actually could carry off myself pretty well. But I had to overcome that because, on a daily basis, I had to give presentations, I had to attend conferences, international conferences, present my data. So all those were a transformation that was happening within me and making me a more responsible person. Of course, when I did my PhD in Germany, they have a heavy focus on quality. They have a heavy focus on accuracy and precision. They have a heavy focus on how to be organized and structured and make sure that we understand time management. So all that was a lot of training, right? All that training for the very good that's going to come out of it. So yes, so we do have to have that patience, that endurance, that sense of achievement, and that burning desire to accomplish that goal. So I think at the end of the day, whatever the difficulties are, when I see my successful experiments and when it can be applied in a real setting, it's a huge gratification. And yeah, nothing can beat that.
Absolutely. And this is something which we always try to convey to all of our researchers, the audience and viewers here, that what you are going through is something which every
Exactly.
single person who has accomplished and got the degree,
Exactly.
it is like they have felt it. So you are not the first one and you are not even the last one.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so there are a few things which I would like to tell all the audience and viewers here, that Dr. Bincy just mentioned about things that sometimes your passion might not be enough. You do need mentoring, you do need networking and guidance. Like in her own case, from masters till now, there was pushing forces. People were, encouraging and telling that you should pursue this thing. You have all these qualities. So SWOT analysis is something which I always, probably in all of my videos, I always say that you should know what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, because these are the things which will make you travel this entire path. Because starting a PhD is totally different in terms of person and personality. When you accomplish it, you change your name, but the transformation of the personality is what Dr. Bincy just mentioned is the most important part. You are not the same person who
Exactly.
rolled into that degree and who was awarded. So
Exactly.
these are the things which, so Dr. Bincy, now when you did the initial education till masters in India, did PhD in Germany, was there any thought at that point of time that you want to go back to India, or it was sure that you are coming to United States?
Yeah, so that was due to personal reasons, because my husband is US based. So he also did his PhD in physics. So we had the similar background. That's the reason what brought me to US. But when I came to US, I was very certain again that about my career choice, that I want to pursue my postdoc in cancer biology. So as I mentioned, it might not be the right way, the way I traversed my path, because sometimes you want to be expert in one field, but I always want to dabble with like new things, right? So that's why I started off with immunology in Ames. I was an intern in Ames in transplantation immunology. I mean, I did a lot of flow cytometry, etc. And from there, I jumped into a structure biology lab, and from there to a molecular biology lab, and then to tumor biology. So that I was very certain that yes, I want to go ahead with the cancer biology mechanism, understanding the mechanism. So that brought me to US. But to be honest, when I looking back, I did face a lot of cultural adjustment issues, because I was from India to Germany to US. The culture and everything is like so different. But I was able to take the best from all of these worlds. Like India, you have a lot of passionate people, very competent, very driven, and come what may, they will achieve their goals. So all that was in my upbringing. And when I went to Germany, they have a high focus about quality, and also like how structured they are. So the PI, the way they run the lab, the group leaders, their workflow, the structure is totally different. So I could learn all those good qualities from them. What are their strengths? And then when I moved to US, the culture is, it is very fast paced, it is dynamic. So I was able to, it was not easy for me to adjust to these situations, but I got technically very skilled, and secondly, it did change my personality a lot, because I was a more flexible person, I was more patient, more adjustable. So that's why I'm actually very grateful to the career path, even though it was not something which I had already imagined and planned in my mind. It just turned out this way. But there are a lot of good things that came out of all these twists and turns throughout the life. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I like the way when you said that you picked the best of all the worlds. And that's how I think the attitude should be. Because in our conversations with our researcher celebrities across the world, this point actually comes very frequently, that the cultural, so some people say cultural shock, some people say cultural issues, some people, say that cultural differences, but at the end of the day, it is for a person, especially moving out of India for the first time to a country where, in case of United States at least, they do speak mostly English, so it is still easy. But in case of Germany, in case of some other European countries where they are so adamant in a way that you have to take their language first, then only you can pursue anything else.
Exactly. Yeah.
How was your experience first in Germany?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, when I went to Germany, I didn't even know this particular aspect, that you got to know the language, because at that time, Germany was not a very popular space to go for PhD. So I had limited information, which was good, because since I had limited information, I had the courage to just go and explore. So when I went out there, thankfully, since the scientific language across the globe is English, all the presentations and the courses which I selected were in English. So the line of communication in the laboratory was English. But if you look at the name of the chemicals and boxes and everything was Deutsch. But then I had an option to go ahead and learn Deutsch, which I did partially. But since I knew that I have to come to America, because of my family ties, I was not very passionate about learning German.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would encourage people, to be honest, like if it's a great skill set to learn languages. And I would encourage people, if you have that passion. I definitely didn't have the passion to learn Deutsch, but I was able to survive with English because it is the global scientific language. But yes, if you have the interest, go ahead and learn a language. It is a good skill set, and it helps you integrating with people. So I did have my own challenges, but I think my peers in the laboratory, they were very helpful. And if I had issues, they would help me out and provide me the guidance. They would translate. And now the world is very digitized, right? So we can, the Google Translator is our help, and it shouldn't be an issue now, to be honest.
That's true. So speaking of challenges in research, let's take some time to discuss about the challenges you have faced when you were doing research in India, how they were different from then to now, from Germany and now in United States, how these things have been changed. Obviously, there are difference in the technology, the platform used because of the advancements, but few things which remains changed as in challenges, and things which have been which were non-existing when you were doing research in India.
So research in India, when I was very young at that time, right? So I had issues having the right guidance, and also the technology, as you mentioned, primarily the technology. So when I went to, since I did have exposure working as an intern in some of the best laboratories like Ames, and they're pretty good. They're extremely good with their machines and instruments, and updated with all that. Second challenge which you have in India is the competition out there, because you have very few spots. Probably the things have changed now, where there are more opportunities. But back in the time, there was limited opportunities, and there were a lot of people who are interested, right? So that was a challenge. But when I went to Germany, forget about the language barrier that I had. But apart from that, there's a lot of opportunity since they have better funding. They do have opportunities to send the research PhD scholars abroad for international conferences. And if you want to have like an exchange between various countries, if they have collaborators, you can travel and collaborate and do your science. And they also have like industrial PhDs. So all these are like opportunities which back then I didn't have in India. And when I come to US, it's very fast paced, like especially the industrial space. And every day there is a new technology that is coming, and either it survives, it takes off, or probably it phases out, and there is something else which is coming. So on a daily basis, there is something which is constantly changing. And just the way I'm wired and just the way I'm structured, I love to have these experiments happening every day. So that's what I see is the major difference, where everything is like very fast paced, the expectations are pretty high, and then you Adjust to those situations and quickly bring in a solution into the market. So that's how I describe it.
So now moving from challenges to the mental health and the burnouts, because burnouts in researcher is something which is common but not acknowledged enough. And researcher celebrity, this is also one of the points which we want to give the flavor from different stage researchers, that what are the like after facing the challenges, how they overcome them, and then in terms of rejuvenation when there are burnouts, how do they rejuvenate themselves. So what are your experiences and suggestions for the viewers?
Yes. So it is actually very interesting how the world operates. Like I did experience burnouts when I was in India. I do experience burnouts when I'm in the US. But when I was in Germany, I didn't get burned out, to be honest, because they have a heavy focus on work-life balance. So they work very diligently. That's their culture, the way they are structured. From Monday through Friday, they'll be very focused and very structured, very organized, and very efficient. And on the weekend, they take a break from all this, and they feel rejuvenated on the Monday morning. So that's how that world operates. And I took all the inspiration from my peers back then for my PhD. And definitely the publication level is always again focused on the quality and not the quantity. So, if my publications were in my postdocs were more compared with my PhD, even though the duration was less in postdoc. So that's how the Europe operates. So if you are really, focused on that, okay, I want to populate very high quality journals and I want a work-life balance out there, then that's a good option, right? It's a good option to go to places like that. But if you want to challenge yourself, if you want to like push those limits, then of course US and India is a very good option. Now, how do I rejuvenate myself is now work-life balance is a very tough question. But like with my husband, so that's my family around with, he helps me out with my children. So I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. It's not easy. It's being balancing my work life and also it's balancing my house. And I get support from him, my family. So that's primarily out there. And another thing which I really believe is that sometimes you have to pace down a little bit, right? Because it's a very competitive world. If I consider myself highly competitive, there'll be somebody who will be super competitive. So it's a relative term. So I kind of find peace in myself that, okay, I can pace down a little bit. For example, if I'm at the scientist level right now and I want to focus on my family, I want to be with my children in their education, I can hold off on my director position right now. So that's how I balance it, so I'm not ready for it yet. So because I want to balance my family life. So it's totally up to you how you empower yourself, how you enable yourself. So if you find peace with it, it's fine. Like for my husband as well, he wants to be a chief, but at the same time, he wants to be with his family. And, every day he comes back from work, he spends time with his daughter with her homework. So he's fine with it. So I think that at some places, it's a trade-off, right? It's really a trade-off. Sometimes if it is like, okay, career is something which is going to bring me that satisfaction and I don't want a home or I don't want a family right now, that's totally fine. It's a decision that you make. Because even when I was pursuing my PhD, I was with my husband and I was doing my postdoc. I was with my husband also during that time. But at that point, my focus was that I have to establish myself as a research scientist and then I'll step forward. But now, when all that is achieved, so I feel that I can wait on my director position right now because I want to be with my family. So it's totally up to you how you choose and what you enable, what you empower within yourself. And this is just an honest opinion. It's totally fine if you pace down a little bit. Yes. It's not because it's a relative term. If I might be competitive, somebody else is highly competitive. And for the highly competitive person, there is somebody else to look up to. So it's totally okay in this world to be just one level down if it gives you peace.
Yes. And this is something which we again always say, that do whatever makes you happy and no one else than you. And this is so individualistic that no one can set goals for you. No one can tell you what makes you happy. And at Researcher Celebrity, Empowering Science Foundation, we always believe in breaking the barriers. And one of the barriers is the definition of success. The definition is not what your designation is. The definition is how content you are, how happy you are working every day when you are going to the job. Do you really feel stressed, bored, or that you are not happy about, you are not enthusiastic about it every day, 365 days? Or if you are working 300 days, whatever the number of days you are working, if you are not passionate every single day, if you are not energetic, I think there are lacunas which needs to be addressed. You should take time and think that what are the things which are either missing in there, or what are the things which are driving you, because that sometimes that is also very important, because then you start focusing more on that and you start acknowledging, and everything starts For every single researcher, everything starts with an observation. You make observations,
Right.
either it is personal or it is professional. On the basis of observations, you live your life. And this is something which every single person in this world does that, but researchers just acknowledges it a bit more than that. And,
Exactly. Agree. Yeah.
and that's what makes them researcher in, for the rest of the world. So Dr.
Exactly.
Bincy, now you actually touched upon work-life balance in different countries you have experienced, and you mentioned about a very good point actually you brought out, that there is nothing wrong to stay back to, because there are some things which as in terms of priorities, everyone has to prioritize their work, either it is personal or it is professional, whatever they want. But have you seen any discrimination or the conversations in and around in your community, when these days when people start talking about women in STEM, women in research, women in every, wherever they are working, there are debates start coming up. What are your thoughts about that?
So thankfully, I didn't have to experience any sort of those discrimination because I came from, when I did my PhD, it was a woman-led lab. When I was doing postdoc, it was a woman-led lab. So I never felt that, there's a discrimination that exists. I only saw like powerful women around me who are like so dedicated and so passionate about what they do, and there was like a burning desire around me. And when I was doing my postdocs, I was working with male leaders, but they were also very, took it very positively that I'm so proud of you that you were able to manage. I've seen men around me who are like, including my dad, my husband, and my peers. They're like, so we are so proud of you that you are able to manage a house and you're able to invest your quality time into research. So I think that's this is a great quality, right? I mean, that a woman is able, it's not about women in general, but I think any individual, right? For
Mhm.
any individual,
Yes.
irrespective of the gender, because of course when I was a postdoc and I was a PhD, I was not earning a lot. It was not financially, it is not a satisfying field as opposed to the other fields.
Mhm.
But what is the gratification that we bring? The satisfaction is that we are able to touch people's life, and if there is a technology in the market, if there is a medicine, if there is an instrument out there, it can actually change the life of a person, right? It can actually bring, when we work with disease models, infections models, all the discovery is bringing a change.
Yes.
I think that that aspect is the beauty of being a researcher out there.
Yes.
Yeah. So I personally didn't feel any discrimination, and I think we should, whether irrespective of the gender, feel empowered, feel enabled. We are all out for a great cause, and at the same time, take it very seriously because it's an accountable job, right? It's a high responsibility job. So wherever I'm around, I think I try to put in a positive impact. It really doesn't matter to me what gender it is. It's about like influencing young minds, and if they have the passion, go for it, right? So that's all I have to say.
No, absolutely. This is something which the reason why we started this conversation was when people in the first sense. So, as I mentioned about Empowering Science Foundation, breaking the barriers, people see that researchers, most of them at least,
Mhm.
when I approach 99% of them, they don't believe that they are celebrities. And this is one thing which we started at Empowering Science Foundation, that let's start celebrating research. The
Mhm.
moment we say let's celebrate research, everyone is like, yes, now we can have researcher celebrity conversations. You figured out very important point that it should not be gender biased.
Mhm.
It is a researcher is a researcher, doesn't matter it's a
Correct.
any gender.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
how the passion should be running and flowing.
Exactly. Yeah.
what we want to take it to the next level, that people should be proud of it.
Exactly.
India in general,
Mm-hmm.
what has been seen, heard, and still the conversation, I don't know when
Mm-hmm.
this will change. People have this idea that if you are doing PhD, even if you have your own stipend, your
Mm-hmm.
fellowship,
Mm-hmm.
they say that, okay, when will you start earning?
Yes.
When they are doing their postdocs, they
Yeah.
still don't see this as a job. They
Mm-hmm.
say that when will you start earning? So
Mm-hmm.
earning for them is like until unless you have a permanent, position of a lecturer or professor or something like that. And now in United States, obviously it's different. People have different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were traveling this, and now when you converse with people, how you see this has changed over time or not?
So, whatever you said is 100% correct because I experienced the same thing when I was doing my PhD. And I think in my case, it was even worse. The reason being because I was doing my PhD in Germany and my husband was doing his PhD in US. So they were like, okay, now there is not a consistent income, and the husband is also like in the same profession, which is also the same financial background now. And third, you guys don't have like a stable job, and it's everything is depending on the contract. So I faced all this, and now even now people have the same I think mindset even in US, because if you when I come across people, they would be, if you're working as a postdoc, and industrial setting is a different setting, but if you're working in a university, they'll be like, okay, how long this job is going to last, and if the postdoc contract is going to finish after 2 years, what is the next step? So people need to understand that after postdoc you can actually be a research investigator, like you can be a PI, you can, there's professorship, and they are also highly reputable and paid jobs, and more than the paid, I think the honor, I think that it's a prestigious job. So that's something which is extremely important. So all this even I faced. Some now the settings have changed because now I'm in an industrial environment.
Mhm.
But in all those times, I let it go because my goal was very clear that this is what I have to achieve and there I want to reach. So I was willing to make those sacrifices. Probably if I am in a different field, I would have been making 3 times more money. But today, when I go to work, I'm motivated. I'm like, yes, I want to make an experiment work. When something, when I'm working, deciphering the cancer mechanisms, and when I see that this drug is working and it can be used, in vivo models, and then we can translate to clinical models, and it can be effective in humans. That achievement, that gratification, I don't think so I would have achieved with a different profession.
Absolutely.
So that's where I think, it is totally up to you. What do you give importance to? For me, that was the importance, that was the significance. And I do have a lot of respect for every research scientist out there, irrespective where they are working, which country they are, which background they are. It's a lot of hardship that they put in. There's a lot of investment of their personal time, because they were like, I was doing my PhD in Germany. I didn't have to go work on weekends or something, but occasionally I had to do that. But that's a sacrifice that these scientists and researchers make, and that is to bring a product in the market which can be used for the betterment of human lives. So I think that's why uh, I let it go. So yeah, that's how I dealt with those situations. And in hindsight, no regrets, because I am motivated to go to my work. So there's not a single day where I'll be discouraged. Every single day I'm passionate. Every single day I have the same energy, and I'm like a little child when I'm doing those experiments and I'm motivating my team. And when they bring success, it's a jubilation. So I think we celebrate it truly.
Absolutely. And I think that's how everyone should be celebrating their research every day. And now we are moving at the edge of the conversation. So the last words I would like to ask you, that a message or note for young researchers who are yet not decided that should they do PhD or not.
So yeah, I get this question asked often by my colleagues and the young minds in my workplace. So I don't want to influence or change somebody's thought process. When people are coming to me with those double-mindedness, that yes or no, I don't want to be the person who makes that decision for them. It's totally up to them. So what I do is, like, I walk them through, just as this series, which is extremely helpful. So I walk them through what all hardships that I had to face and what all achievements I had. And the joy that I bring in, or the passion that I have today. So do you want to also replicate that, or do you also want to celebrate the way I celebrate my journey? So does it resonate with them, yes or no? So that's all that I tell them. So I never tell anybody that, okay, go and pursue your PhD. Somebody did that to me for the right reason. But I never direct anybody that, okay, go for your PhD. So I explain exactly like the series, the format that you have. I walk them through all my experiences. The choice is yours. It's up to them what they want to do. So if it resonates, if my journey resonates with you, if it influences you, if it can change your mind, or it brings you, from a no to a yes, then you go for it.
Absolutely.
That's it.
And I think this is the best suggestion to any researcher. So to all the audience and viewers here, Dr. Bincy has not said anything, but probably you might have got all the answers you want from her. And now you might be more firm towards pursuing research as your career, or you might not be. But anyways, do your maths, do your homework, do your SWOT analysis, and then see, because at the end of the day, what all human beings and researchers are no exception to that, is that everyone wants to be happy. And here at Researcher Celebrity, we always say, do whatever makes you happy. If research makes you happy, just don't give up, keep going, and on and on and on. And with this, I would like to say thank you, Dr. Bincy, for sharing the journey and helping young researchers to make up their mind and final their path. Thank you very much for sharing the journey with Empowering Science Foundation.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to all the audience, that stay tuned for more of our Researcher Celebrity series. And if you want to ask question to Dr. Bincy, you can write to her. If you want Empowering Science Foundation to put you in contact with our researcher celebrities, we are more than happy to put you in contact with them. Till then, enjoy your research. Thank you, Dr. Bincy. Bye-bye.